I stormed out of the room, my steps heavy with anger, frustration, and something else I couldn't quite name. How the hell did everything slip so far out of control? 1 minute, I was trying to patch things up with Ariana, and the next, I was choking her. My own hands, my own damn hands, had nearly killed her. The echo of her gasps, the terror in her eyes, it cut through me like a knife. I wanted to go back to make it right, but a part of me knew it wasn't that simple. I wasn't that simple. I couldn't just let her walk away from everything I was. She wanted to control it. Control me. That much was clear. She wanted me to change, to drop my past, but I wasn't sure if I could do that. Not for anyone. Especially not for her. I couldn't breathe. The weight of everything I'd done, everything I was, pressed down on me like a crushing force. My hands were still trembling as I stepped into the hallway, the air thick with the lingering tension between Ariana and me. Her eyes haunted me, wide with pain and disbelief, like I had shattered something inside her that I didn't know how to fix. I glanced down at my watch, the time glowing back at me in the dim light, way past midnight. Too late to be out, too late to be losing control, but I couldn't stop myself. I needed to cool down to clear my mind, to do something, anything, to break the damn loop I was caught in. I walked toward the front door, the cool night air beckoning me, but then I stopped. I turned sharply toward the basement. My teeth ground together as my mind filled with the image of her, Skyler, the woman who had caused this mess, the reason Ariana and I were fighting again, the reason I was choking the one person I wanted more than anything. It was all her fault. I turned on my heel and made my way down to the basement, heading straight for her designated cold room. But when I threw open the door, it was empty. A low, guttural rumble of frustration slipped from my chest as I scanned the empty space. Where the hell is that bitch? My eyes flicked to my watch once more. My finger brushed over the small screen, pulling up the CCTV footage from the cameras scattered around the house. I scrolled through the feed, looking for anything that could tell me where Skyler had gone. The last recorded footage was from a camera near the stairwell, showing Florence making her way down earlier. I didn't need to be a genius to connect the dots. Florence, I muttered, grinding my teeth. What did I tell you before? Without another second of hesitation, I stormed toward Florence's room, fury clawing at my insides. I didn't bother to knock. I just kicked the door open, the sound of the wood splintering echoing through the hallway. The instant I entered, Florence's startled growl cut through the tension, but I barely heard it. I was focused on one thing only. There, in the center of her bed, curled up like a damn fool, was Skyler. Her hair was a tangled mess around her, her face half buried in the covers, as if she hadn't a care in the world. Florence shot upright, her eyes wide with panic as she saw me. Skyler, too, jerked awake, her face turning pale when she saw the fury in my eyes. She wasn't stupid. She knew what was coming. I grabbed Skyler by the hair, yanking her forward, the force of the movement sending her sprawling onto the floor. Before she could even react, I slapped her across the face, the sound of the impact echoing throughout the room. Florence screamed, her hand flying to her mouth in shock, but it did nothing to slow my rage. "You motherfucking bitch," I growled, my voice low and seething with venom. "This is all your fault, and I swear to hell, you're going to taste the worst of me." Skyler struggled, scrambling to push herself up, but I didn't give her the chance. I reached for her, pulling her upright by her arm, and slapped her again. This time, The force of the blow split her lip, blood spilling from the corner of her mouth. She fell backward, knocking over the vanity as she tumbled to the floor, but I wasn't done yet. As I took a step toward her, Florence stepped between us, her body shaking with fear. "Please, Mr. Anderson," she pleaded, her voice frantic. "It's my fault. I was the one who brought her here. I couldn't let her die from the cold." I snapped, fury flashing in my eyes as I looked at Florence. "I fucking told you not to get down there, but you still disobeyed me," I growled. "Who the hell do you think you are in this house? Now get the fuck out of my way." Florence shook her head, her eyes brimming with panic and guilt. "I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson, but I can't watch you kill her in front of me." I shoved her aside with force, not caring that at her age, she might crash into something or hurt herself in the process. The last thing on my mind was her safety. I had to teach this bitch a lesson. Without giving her another thought, I grabbed Skyler by the hair once more, dragging her toward the door. But before I could make it out, Ariana barged in. She stood in the doorway, eyes wide. She looked between Skyler and me, and then her voice broke through the haze of my anger. "Grayson," she said softly, stepping forward. "Please stop this madness. You don't need to resolve this with violence. Let her go, and we'll talk. Please. Let's talk first, and then you can do whatever you want, but only after we've talked, when you're calm." I exhaled a heavy, shuddering breath, the anger that had consumed me momentarily subsiding under the weight of Ariana's presence. Slowly, I released my grip on Skyler's hair, letting her crumple to the floor without a second glance. My gaze remained locked on Ariana, her eyes unwavering, as she silently drew me in. My eyes then flickered to her red, bruised neck, and a pang of regret sliced through me, deep and sharp. I felt my heart tighten at the sight, until her hand reached for mine, gentle, yet firm. "Come on," she murmured softly, her voice steady, a lifeline in the storm that raged within me. I let her guide me back toward our room, the weight of everything hanging in the air between us. She closed the door quietly behind us, and I felt the world outside fade into nothing, just the two of us in that fragile silence. The room felt suffocating, the walls closing in with the silence. I stood there, my hands still trembling, not sure what to say, not sure if I even deserved to speak. Ariana didn't let go of my hand. She stood in front of me, her eyes soft but intense, as though she could see through every wall I'd built. I didn't know where to begin. The anger, the guilt, the confusion, they were all tangled inside me, clawing for release. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow, as I tried to steady myself. I had hurt her. I had hurt the one person I wanted to protect more than anything, and for what? For some twisted mix of fear and control that I couldn't seem to shake off. "You don't have to say anything, Grayson." Ariana's voice was soft but strong, like a quiet plea. "But you have to listen." Her words, simple but powerful, broke something inside me. I looked at her, really looked at her. Her eyes, her hands, her presence. She wasn't running away from me, even after everything. She was standing right here, holding me together when I was falling apart. "I don't want you to become him," she whispered, her voice catching slightly. "I don't want you to become the monster you think you have to be." A heavy weight pressed on my chest, and I had to fight to keep my breath steady. My throat tightened. How could she say that? How could she still care about me after what I'd just done? But she did. She was still here. I closed my eyes, willing the pain in my chest to subside, but it didn't. It was like I'd already lost something I couldn't get back. "Look, I really suck at apologizing, but just know..." I paused, struggling to find the right words. I wasn't good at this. at expressing what I felt. Ariana shook her head, her grip tightening on my hand, pulling me closer, as if she could hold me together. I know you're sorry, Grayson, but I need you to see yourself, to stop hiding behind this anger, behind the fear. You're better than this. We're better than this. She was right. I knew it deep down, but I couldn't bring myself to fully believe it, not when the ghosts of my past haunted me at every turn, gripping me tighter with each step I took. She stepped forward, lifting her hand to my face, her touch gentle but firm. We can fix this, but you have to be willing to change. Will you let me help you? Will you let us fix it? The question hung between us, fragile but real. Could I let go of the darkness I had wrapped myself in? Could I trust her enough to change? I stared into her eyes, the walls I'd built around myself wavering, almost crumbling under her gaze. I wanted to let her in, to let her pull me out of this twisted prison I'd trapped myself in. But what if it was too late? What if the anger and the darkness had become a part of me, too ingrained to ever escape? I don't know if I can, I whispered, my voice thick with the weight of everything I felt. I've spent so long being this, keeping control by pushing everything else away. It's what I know, Ariana. It's what's kept me alive. Her eyes softened, her fingers tracing along my jawline, grounding me in a way I hadn't felt in years. You don't have to be alone in this anymore. I'm here, Grayson. I'm right here with you, and I'm not leaving, no matter how hard you push. Surge of something unfamiliar and unsettling stirred in me. Hope, maybe, or some distant thread of trust that I'd long buried. I wanted to believe her, to let myself imagine a life where I wasn't bound by the anger and violence that had shaped me. But the fear of losing control, of failing her, held me back. What if I hurt you again? I asked, the question raw and desperate. What if I can't change? She tightened her grip on my hand, pulling it against her heart, steady and unyielding. Then we face it together. We rebuild no matter how many times it takes. You don't have to be perfect, Grayson. I just need you to try, to let me in, to let me help you find yourself again. Her words cut through my defenses, unraveling the anger and shame that had clouded my mind. Slowly, I brought my other hand to her face, letting my thumb trace along her cheek, feeling the warmth of her skin, the softness of her touch. She was real, grounded, unwavering, and somehow, despite everything, still willing to stand by me. Then, I'll try, I said, barely able to trust the words as they left my lips. I'll try to be the man you see in me. A small smile curved on her lips, a spark of hope lighting her eyes. That's all I ask, Grayson. Just try. In that fragile silence, I pulled her into a deep kiss, kissing her so deeply as if she were my lifeline. For the first time in a long time, the darkness that haunted me felt a little less suffocating, a little more bearable with her by my side. And though I couldn't promise her perfection, I could give her this moment, this chance at a different path, one I hoped I wouldn't lose hold of again. As I pulled back from the kiss, my gaze lingered on her face, tracing the soft curves and lines I'd grown to know so well. There was a part of me that never got used to seeing her like this, so close, so mine. Leaning down, I kissed her again, slower this time, letting the moment settle between us. When I finally let her go, I kept her close, fingers brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. I couldn't help but smile. How many times had we been here before, tangled in this push and pull, but tonight, it felt different. It felt real. We should get some rest, I murmured, my hand still cradling her cheek. Tomorrow, you and I have somewhere to go. Her brows lifted, curiosity sparking in her eyes. And where exactly would that be? She asked, her tone playful. Somewhere special, I replied, a smirk creeping across my lips. A place where we can start fresh, just the two of us. No interruptions, and definitely without your annoying brothers hovering around. Her lips parted in surprise, and I saw a hint of laughter there. I raised my hands, feigning innocence. All right, I take it back. They're just being protective, and honestly, I can't blame them. A genuine smile broke across her face, and she glanced at the bed before giving me a pointed look. Just sleep, Grayson. Nothing else. You promise? I couldn't help but chuckle at that. Did she really think I could lie beside her and just sleep? Leaning in close, I let my voice drop to a low murmur. I'm sorry, love, I whispered, sliding my fingers along the small of her back. But I can't promise you that. I'm a little wild when it comes to enjoying my woman. She rolled her eyes, but the corners of her mouth betrayed her, twitching into a smile. I seized the moment, wrapping my arms around her and lifting her effortlessly, carrying her toward the bed. *****, morning came, and I was sitting in the car, drumming my fingers impatiently as I watched Ariana talk with her brothers. They were insistent on tagging along, clearly not getting the hint that I wanted time alone with her. She had been trying to persuade them for a while now, and I saw a flicker of hope as she started walking back to the car. But then, her brothers followed right behind her. I let out a frustrated breath. If she couldn't convince them, maybe it was time for me to step in, maybe lay on a little cold authority, because the truth was, I didn't need them. I needed 2 days with Ariana, just the two of us, so we could enjoy each other's company without them hovering around like suffocating smoke. My jaw clenched as I moved to get out of the car, preparing to have a word with them, but they stopped in the courtyard, holding their ground at last. I breathed a sigh of relief. She'd managed to hold them back. When she reached the car, I got out and opened the door for her, holding back a grin as her brothers shot me a look that could have melted glass. Without a second glance in their direction, I settled back into the driver's seat and pulled away, heading toward our destination. Still, a small thread of unease wound its way through my thoughts. This wasn't just any place. It was a special part of my life. A piece of myself I was about to share with her. I wasn't sure if she'd see it that way or if it would mean as much to her as well. I hoped it would, though. This trip was supposed to be a beginning, a way for us to start knowing each other in a way we hadn't before. And more than anything, I wanted it to be perfect. The drive was mostly silent, with Ariana gazing out the window, her expression thoughtful. I couldn't tell if she was excited or nervous, but her quiet anticipation only added to the sense of mystery surrounding our destination. I liked that she didn't pepper me with questions, though. She trusted me enough to wait, to let the moment unfold on its own. After about 2 hours, we turned down a winding, private road that led us away from the city and into a landscape that seemed almost untouched by time. A few minutes later, we arrived at the estate, settled beside a small, shimmering lake, surrounded by thick, towering trees. I parked the car and glanced over at Ariana, gauging her reaction. She looked out at the serene surroundings, her eyes widening slightly, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Where are we?" "Somewhere special," I replied, watching her closely. "It's a place I used to come to when I needed to get away from everything." I wasn't used to sharing parts of myself like this, especially places that held personal meaning. But somehow, bringing her here felt right. I wanted her to see me in this quieter, more vulnerable way. She looked at me, her gaze softening, as if she understood without me needing to say more. "It's beautiful," she murmured, glancing back at the lake, where the late afternoon light glinted off the water in shades of gold and blue. I led her inside, showing her around the cozy house I'd spent countless nights in over the years. It wasn't anything grand like the mansion, but it held a charm that was hard to describe. The walls were adorned with rustic decor, and there was a fireplace crackling with warmth in the living room, casting a soft glow over the space. I watched her take it all in, noting how her smile grew with each room we walked through. As we reached the back deck that overlooked the lake, she turned to me, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "So, 2 whole days," she said, crossing her arms playfully. "What exactly do you have planned for us here?" I smirked, leaning casually against the wooden railing. "Wouldn't you like to know?" She laughed softly, rolling her eyes. "You're so mysterious." "Guilty as charged," I said, stepping closer to her. "But if you're good, I might let you in on a few surprises." She raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "And if I'm not, then I might just have to keep you guessing." A slight blush crept onto her cheeks, and I couldn't help but reach out, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. It was a small, simple gesture, but I felt a strange warmth spreading through me. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into my touch, her eyes searching mine. "So, this is your hideaway?" she asked, her voice soft. "A place just for you." I hesitated for a moment, not sure if I should let her in on the truth. Part of me wanted to keep this place to myself. A small part of my past I could still control. But as I looked at her, I realized I didn't want to keep anything from her anymore. I wanted her to see me for who I really was, not just the man I showed the world. Maybe, just maybe, she'd understand. With a long, quiet sigh, I leaned back against the railing and glanced out at the lake, the words heavy on my chest. This place, it wasn't just for me. I bought it for my mother. I paused, trying to steady the emotions threatening to rise. And for the woman I promised I'd bring her one day. Someone who'd mean enough for me to want her to know everything. I looked away, steadying myself. "And to let you know who I am, Ariana, above everything else. I'm nothing special. I'm a bastard son, a son of a prostitute,